Hello everyone, welcome to Symbiosis Law Admission Test 2021 Comprehensive Analysis Session. So finally, this exam also got over today. Conducted over a period of 3 days, Symbiosis Law Admission Test, or SLAT as we know it, was conducted very smoothly, if I were to say. Though we had mixed reactions about the paper, but very few students across the country faced technical issues. This time they were quite particular with the dry runs which they have done over a period of last 10 days, and that took care of every technical aspect. So majority of the students could complete the paper, they could start on time, they could complete the paper on time, and we can safely say that this time it was better managed as compared to the previous years. But if you look at overall aspect of the paper, which was conducted in the home proctored online format, similar to what happened in 2020, and we all understand the reasons are same, the pandemic, the overall difficulty level of this paper was very different as compared to the previous years. While Symbiosis Law Admission Test has always been known as a very easy paper. It has always been a very easy paper, and that is always evident from the cutoffs as well. And this is one paper which majority of the students feel very comfortable about, but not in 2021, I believe. As I said, we got mixed reactions about this paper. This paper was this year slightly difficult as compared to the previous years, and just like 2020, the written ability test was also integrated along with the MCQ paper. Now it's a wait and watch scenario from here on, because the results, or rather the scorecards, will be released on 27th of July, somewhere around 5 p.m. Before I go and talk about each of these sections, before I talk about the cutoffs in particular, which all of you are waiting for, I'll not take much long to come to that part. I would like to remind some important timelines to each one of you, because this is very, very important. Well, majority of you would have already applied to the respective Symbiosis law schools, but if you have not done so yet, then you still have an opportunity. If you were waiting for the exam to get over, and then you wanted to take a call as to which of the Symbiosis law schools I want to apply for, then you still have the opportunity. So you can apply to Symbiosis Law School Pune, Symbiosis Law School Noida till 23rd of July. You can even apply to Symbiosis Hyderabad and Symbiosis Nagpur till 25th and 24th of July respectively. So you still have an opportunity. If you want, probably you applied to just one college earlier or maybe two colleges earlier. Now you believe that I have done well in the paper, I can still apply to other colleges. Or if I may have not done well in the paper for some reason, I can still apply to the other Symbiosis law schools which I have not applied. Then this is the opportunity which is your way, and you should definitely do that. The scorecard, while it will be released on 27th of July, somewhere around 5 p.m., each of the institutions will announce their own cutoffs and shortlist of the students. So we all understand from here the process will be taken over by the respective Symbiosis law schools, and each of these law schools will have their own personal interview happening somewhere around August 1st and 2nd week. So for which each of them will be announcing their shortlist around last week of July. For example, SLS Noida will be announcing it on 29th of July. The others will be announcing it in the first week of August. And then you will have the opportunity to book your slots, and that will be on the first come first serve basis. You need to understand that will be on first come first serve basis. So which slot you want for yourself, whether the very first day slot or whether the last day slot, it's your call, but you'll have to get your slots booked within those respective timelines. And then for each of the institutions, you'll have to appear, whichever cutoffs you clear, you'll have to appear for separate personal interviews. So I felt this is very important. Quite a number of students wait for the exams to get over, and sometimes they understand that probably will get an opportunity. So it's time, you can apply, take your call. This is what you have performed in your respective slot in the last 3 days. So let's move on and look at what was the structure. So because of the pandemic, again, they changed the overall pattern of the examination, or I would say rather the structure of the examination. So instead of usual 150 questions, this year it was just about 60 questions. And you had 60 minutes to complete the paper. Each of the sections had uniform number of questions, which is 12. So a total of 60 questions to be attempted in 60 minutes. And we all know Symbiosis does not have a provision of negative marking. So you can always take your chances, which majority of the people have done this time as well, considering the paper was slightly on the difficult side. Not very high, but slightly on the difficult side. Let's look at each of these sections, how you may have fared over there, and then we'll come to the cutoff part. So starting with reading comprehension. Now, this is one area which I believe every student must have done well, especially the ones who are targeting CLAT, because when you are preparing for CLAT reading comprehension, you are definitely ready out there, ready for the reading comprehension section of Symbiosis. Quite a similarity out there. But the best part was this section turned out to be the easiest section on all the 3 days. So whether it was 10th July, 11th July, 12th July today, this section was one of the easiest sections one can come across. So you had 3 passages each of the day, followed by 4 questions. The best part was there were 3 to 4 questions on contextual vocabulary, which I have been telling again and again. That's something which is quite easy for every student. Even if you're not that good in vocabulary on a standalone basis, you can still do wonders when it comes to contextual vocabulary, which is based on reading comprehension passages. The other questions, those 7 to 8 questions in each of the papers, were very direct and could have been easily inferred. The answers could have been easily inferred from the passage. So they were very direct, factual questions, actually, I would say. And that is why this section, no doubt, was one of the most easiest section you have come across this year. And as you know, while you're preparing for CLAT, definitely you have an edge in this section. But still, I would say, considering the time management aspect, which is very, very important, because there were other 4 sections which were slightly difficult, some were even lengthy, like legal reasoning. So if I consider every aspect, I would still say that 9 to 10, any score of 9 or 10 in this paper can be considered really good, actually. So that would be considered a really good, only from the time management perspective. One of the favorite areas for all the law aspirants, legal reasoning. Well, if I talk about the quality of the questions, not very different from the previous years. So it was a good mix of principle fact-based and situation-based exercise. Surprisingly, in some of the slots, there were 4 or 5 questions on situation. In some of the slots, there was maybe 6 questions out there. So 3 to 4 today was the scenario, and you also had a match the following from the constitution part, actually, which I'm sure all of you would have done, those who appeared for the paper today. But yes, this section turned out to be a lengthy section this year, actually. Some of the fact situations were quite lengthy, actually, in some of the questions. In fact, if you have appeared for the paper today, the very first 2 questions were quite lengthy, actually. But they tried to maintain a balance. So you had questions from the area of contract, you had it from criminal law, torts, constitution. Slightly difficult because of, or I would say moderately difficult, and because of the length aspect as well. But yes, this section was doable. It was not very difficult, but doable. I would again say that this section, if you have scored anywhere between, if you could manage anywhere between 9 to 10, that is definitely considered to be a really good score, actually. So if I talk about this section in particular, analytical reasoning. Now, this is where the element of surprise was there. So if I recall 2020 paper and the earlier papers, there is one thing which is very particular about analytical reasoning section of Symbiosis law admission test, which is it's a good mix of quant and analytical reasoning. It has never been just about analytical reasoning. It is a good mix of arithmetic and analytical reasoning, which was there this time as well. But for example, yesterday, it was all about analytical reasoning. You hardly had questions coming from the quant section. So I can safely say that over the period of 3 days, there were a lot of variations in this section, actually. On 2 days, 10th and 12th of July, you had some questions coming from arithmetic. It was missing on 11th of July, actually. So, but still, this section again was slightly on the moderate side, not difficult I would say, but easy to moderate range I would say, looking at the kind of the question, and they tried to maintain a complete balance. You had series, you had odd one, everything coming out there. Blood relations was another focus area. So this was again a very balanced section I would say, and 9 to 10 within this section, a good attempt was possible. 11, and somebody could have even attempted 12 question. 11 was definitely a good attempt possible, and 9 to 10 can definitely be considered a really good score in this section as well. Logical reasoning. Now, this section, no surprises, I would say, because again, when we talk about similar to analytical reasoning, when we talk about logical reasoning, it has always been a mix of verbal and analytical reasoning, actually. So some sort of confusion has always been there when it comes to SLAT paper, actually, Symbiosis Law Admission Test paper, year after year. So this year, we also had some questions coming from analytical reasoning within this section. No questions, I would say, this year, except for one or two slots on statement assumption or those kind of questions. Rather, it was more of the on the easier side, more of the analytical side, I would say. Even if I talk about this section, again, this section, considering the time aspect, I would rate it easy to moderate. Not very difficult, and 9 to 10 even in this section is quite manageable. A good score out there in this section. One could have easily attempted 11, but could have gone for 12 attempts as well. So not a very difficult one, but I'm considering overall time aspect, because आपका थोड़ा सा समय legal पे जरूर गया होगा while reading those questions out there, which were a little bit lengthy out there. So considering all those aspects, so this section was again on the easy moderate side. The last section, which is general awareness, and which all of you are expected to do well because of the CLAT factor, once again, similar to reading comprehension. This section was definitely a kind of surprise. Not that about the mix. The mix was very similar like last year or last year maybe. So 30 to 35% static GK question, 70% current affairs question. But this time something was there, which was depth of the knowledge they were testing. So quite unusual kind of questions this time, isn't it? Quite unusual areas they tried to cover actually. Every day they had something very unusual, some 2-3 questions which nobody would have thought of actually. But yes, if you're well prepared, you could have definitely done that. But definitely this section was on the difficult side this time, moderately difficult side on this time. They tried to cover every aspect, but then end up with some unusual surprises out here. 8 to 9. So here I'm going a bit less actually as compared to the other section. I believe a score of even 8 can be considered really good in this section actually. One could have possibly attempted 9 to 10, and 8 is something which is definitely you could have managed considering overall aspect of the paper. So as compared to the previous years, no doubt this time it was slightly on the moderate side, slight difficult as compared to the previous years. And definitely that will have an effect on the overall cutoffs. So if I consider every aspect and considering the feedback of the students, this is what our projection is. Now, this may vary, obviously, so please be careful while taking any call based on the cutoffs. But yes, this is what we can safely project. For BLLB SLS Pune, the expected cutoff would be somewhere in the range or might be closer to 40-42 marks. For BBLLB, it should be somewhere around 36 above. For SLS Noida, anywhere 35-37 could be the cutoff. And for the BLLB program, for BBLLB, it should be somewhere around 32-34. SLS Hyderabad, maybe around 33-34 could be the cutoff for the BLLB. So we all know for the BLLB program, the cutoffs are always on the higher side as compared to the BBLLB program. And this is the general category cutoff which I'm talking about. So you can safely assume that it could be somewhere around this. I'm not expecting a very higher cutoff this year, while the paper was just about 60 marks. But if you look at the overall difficulty level of the paper over the last 3 days, It was slightly on the moderate side, and definitely that will bring down the cutoff a bit lower as compared to the previous years. Historically, traditionally, if you look at SLAT cutoff, it has been somewhere around for 70% and above. So if you get this score, you are definitely going to get a call, hopefully. And if you have better scores, obviously your chances of selection would be very, very high, because 50% weightage is assigned to your MCQ paper score, which is SLAT, for admissions or for the final merit list. So this is what is the expected cutoff for 2021. And hopefully it should be within that range itself. It seems to be quite easier, but it was not. While people may still argue about this cutoffs, but yes, it might vary. But I believe considering all the aspects, feedback from the students, mixed reactions, and if you look at the overall paper, then it's not going to be on the very, very higher side. Even last year, while the paper was very easy, the cutoffs never went on the very higher side actually. So we have to look at every aspect, and basis that, this is the projection which we have. So I hope this is something which you are eagerly waiting for actually. So now what? From here onwards, it's a wait and watch scenario as far as Symbiosis is concerned. But we all understand on 23rd, you have your CLAT paper. On 30th, you have your AILET paper. So that's where your focus has to be. Because anyways, the shortlisting for the institutions will be happening somewhere around 29th of July, not before that. So now you should shift your gears completely towards CLAT and AILET without bothering much here. Because next part is basically personal interview, which is not going to be very, very difficult. So usual kind of questions when it comes to interview. Talking about VAT integrated once again, like last year with the paper itself, not very difficult topics. I'm sure you all are familiar with all this. So whether it is about information technology usage in judicial system, or talking about atrocities towards women, or medical negligence during COVID, we all are familiar with actually. Social media, data privacy, we have been talking for last almost 5-6 years in that sense actually. Comedy equality needed to be protected, and when you had to talk through recent events, I think Munawar Faruqi had been a good example while writing on this topic actually. Ban on plastics, I think you all are familiar with. VAT will be evaluated only for the students who will be clearing the cutoff. So this is not, they are not going to check VAT for everyone. Only if you have cleared the cutoff, they will be looking at your essays for the final merit list preparation, not before that actually. So you don't need to worry about. So once again, a small reminder, this is the date timelines when the shortlist will be announced. You have to be really careful with the slot bookings. Do not miss out. It's on the first come first serve basis. So जैसे ही window open होता है, आप अपना slot what you want for yourself उसको book करो. Otherwise दूसरे book करेंगे तो you'll have to look out, or you will be allotted a slot by the institution itself. So better है कि you look out for your own slot actually, which you might believe that you will be comfortable with. Anyways, by this time, hopefully your CLAT results will also be out. So majority of you would not be requiring that even actually. So that's what I presume. But yes, from here onwards, your gear must shift towards CLAT and IELTS. Don't worry about any other thing, nothing to be worried about. Now your complete attention, complete focus must go to CLAT and IELTS. Results for Symbiosis comes on 29th around, not before that. So with that, we come to the end of the session, SLAT 2021 Comprehensive Analysis. I'm sure all of you are going to come out with flying colors. Here's on behalf of CL-LST, I wish you all the very best for your selections and definitely for CLAT and AILET 2021. Go give your best shots out there.